What is up and welcome to Neon Topic? Is that what we're calling it? Yes, I think so. This is Neon Games Dimension, your place for all things gaming within the nerdy pocket dimension that is Neon Pocket Dimension. My name is Gage Luke, and we are here for a very special night of FromSoft wonder and madness. I'm here with some fun special guests, but first, as usual, we have the DM himself, the producer supreme, that is Jacob Jones. What's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I hope you're ready to lose your goddamn minds in insane theories and nonsense.
And eldritch horror. Yes, and then we have OMGARchetype, aka Randy. Introduce yourself. You've been on here before, but it's been quite some time.
Yeah. So what's up? My name is Randy. And it's been a couple of years since the last time I was on here. Fortunately enough, that was for FromSoft Talk as well. So
True.
here I am back again.
Our resident FromSoft. What do they call that? I guess expert guest host, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know if you want to give anybody those kinds of expectations for me, but I'll do what I can.
Sure. You're right. The community is pretty astringent. They're like, yeah, whatever. You don't even know that. Like, whatever. Da. Yeah, never mind. It's all good. Everything is okay in the Neon Pocket Dimension. And then for the first time appearing on Neon or NPD, NGD, Odd Valley content, we have Arturo. He is the RoboBartender himself.
Hola, mucho gusto. I'm here to talk lore and make dad jokes.
He's most welcome. Bienvenidos.
Can I refer to you as the pun master, our resident pun master here at
that's one of my titles. That's fine.
Odd Valley Studios official resident pun master, Arturo RoboBartender.
It does roll off the tongue, but I do occasionally get tripped up on it for sure. Fantastic. Well, that is right, y'all. Tonight we are here for our amazing topic, which is the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC SpoilerCast. So From Software's magnum opus, Elden Ring, an open world action RPG with one of the most sprawling and intricate worlds of all time. Now the team has put out an additional DLC entitled Shadow of the Erdtree, in which players tread a dark, neglected land full of its own intrigue, wonder, and horror. Tonight we're going to spoil all of it: lore, bosses, story. So this is your big spoiler warning. If you don't want anything spoiled, turn back now. You have been warned. So yeah, we're gonna go through all of it. We've all gone through the game and the DLC at this point. So we're very excited to get into the nitty gritty with y'all. So if you either don't care about spoilers or if you're finished with the DLC, hang out with us. And if not, save this video for later, and you can come back and watch it on YouTube as a VOD at your leisure. So we'll pretty much jump right in, but real quick, let's just go down the panel. I'll start with you, Arturo. What's your experience with FromSoft games in general, and just your kind of overall feelings about Elden Ring as a complete package now that you've finished the DLC?
So my first Souls game, FromSoft game, was actually Demon Souls on PS3. I'm an old man, so back in my day, we had these retail stores with physical copies of games. They're kind of like your Xbox or PlayStation storefront, but like in person. And it's one of those days where I had extra money and I wanted to buy a new video game, but didn't have anything in mind. And I saw this interesting looking Japanese action RPG, a genre that I'm not that familiar with. I took it home. I guess I got farther than I thought, but I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to play this game. I think I got to the second boss and I'm like, nope, sorry. Later I found out that the more you die, the harder the game gets, which is the most bonkers mechanics I've ever heard in my life, but here we are. And I tried other Souls-like games on occasion. They never really clicked until I got my PS5. Shout out to Wario64, the saint of deals. And I picked up the Demon Souls remake from Bluepoint, and I was like, I need to beat this game. And I don't care. I use guides. I used every trick in the book, any sort of cheese element, but I did it, and I was hooked. And I've gone back. I've gotten to the end of Bloodborne and Sekiro. I've beaten Surge 2. I've gotten to the end of Surge 1. I've beaten Elden Ring at this point 4 times with 2
Nice.
new game pluses. Elden Ring might have become my favorite game of all time at this point, and I've been anxiously awaiting Shadow of the Erdtree and just super excited to chat with you guys about it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Nice, that was perfect. All right, our other guest, Randy, what we kind of know from your episode before when you were here,
Yeah.
but in case people haven't seen that, just a quick brief history of your FromSoft stuff, and then yeah, how you're feeling about Elden Ring these days.
Sure. I'm the other old guy, I guess. I think we're all in that same boat. So, but yeah, I started in Demon Souls as well. Like I remember pre-ordering the special edition when it first came out. I think I told y'all last time I saw a post about it on GameFAQs, and it sounded interesting, and I heard nothing but good things from like the Asian import that people were getting. I was like, I'm gonna check it out. So ended up picking it up on release day and played through it, played a ton of it, and I was hooked from that point on. And I've played every game since, played and beat every game since multiple times. I have the platinum in Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring, and yeah, so like I've just been there since the beginning, and it's one of my favorite things ever. So, and Bloodborne is my favorite still, despite how amazing Elden Ring is. Bloodborne still surpasses it, in my opinion.
It's got such a specific and like honed in idea of what it is, and like
Yeah.
the art style and the lore of it is so very like tight. I feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and despite its flaws, like because it does have flaws, it's not a perfect game, but beyond that, it's still just like the aesthetic, the world, the setting, the werewolves and aliens, and like just the lore. It's just the total package, and yeah.
100%. Jacob, we've you and I have both spouted on this channel a little bit, but just in case people are tuning in for this specific thing, what about you with FromSoft and Elden Ring?
With FromSoft games, I always thought like originally that, oh fuck that, game that's a troll game. That's a game that's just exists just to piss you off. And then I eventually tried Dark Souls 2. This is before Dark Souls 3 came out on PC. I pirated it allegedly. Tried it out. I was like, okay, this is hard, but I got kind of far and I was sort of digging it, but mostly I was like, I don't know. I got to a point where I just gave up. And then it wasn't until I believe, what was it? I think it was Bloodborne that really clicked with me the most at the very beginning. But I had tried other From games, but it really wasn't until probably Dark Souls 1, which I played on the Switch, that I, like Dark Souls Remastered on the Switch, that I really got into it. And then from that point, I played Sekiro, I played Bloodborne, I played through the whole thing. That's what really sucked me in. And then, like I said, Sekiro after that, which I never beat. I was on that last boss, and I just couldn't beat his ass. And like now, I feel like I want to just start over and do it again. Just like having the knowledge of From Software games now, I feel like I could really enjoy myself playing through it again. But hey, I'm with you, man. Like Randy, like I fucking like the vibe of Bloodborne, the message structure of Bloodborne. It got so like I'm a horror fan, I love H.P. Lovecraft stuff, and you know what I mean. And so like when I played Bloodborne, I was just talking like the messages for like months. You know what I mean? I just got obsessed. But then Elden Ring came out after, by the way, Dark Souls 3, great game. Fucking played the shit out of it. Never beat the DLC. I do need to do like a redo with every From game, including Demon Souls, which I again didn't beat. But I want to go back and play them all on PC, like one after the other, and stream it all. That would be like a lot of fun. But it wasn't until Elden Ring came out that I realized like, okay, this is like my favorite game, I think. You know what I mean? Because like they call me the 5-minute gamer, right? Because I play like every game for 5 minutes. Like I don't beat a lot of games, you know what I mean? But I play everything. But the fact that I've beaten Elden Ring 4 times now or 3 times now, whatever, I got the 100% achievement. I didn't use an exploit, so I actually beat it that many times. And I didn't do New Game Plus. I started it over. each time to get the 100% achievement. Like that's a big deal because like I don't do that with games. You know,
It's a
what I mean?
big game too, you know. Like,
Yeah, it's long. So we were looking at my save files and I'm like, yeah, I got about 500 hours. It's no big deal. Like it's like fucked up how
Yeah.
much I love Elden Ring. So From
That
Software games
says
are
a
great.
lot.
Not Assassin's Creed. Armored Core, what is
Oh,
it?
yeah.
6?
5,
Sixes.
5?
6,
Is it-
6. Sorry,
Yeah, Fires Rubicon.
The one that
Yeah.
just came
Yeah,
out.
that's 6, right?
you're right.
That game's
Sorry.
badass too. I need to go back and like continue my new game plus in that game too. I mean, From Software, like Miyazaki, just in my opinion, right now is top dog. Their From Software is like an immaculate studio. Like you know, they're not the best. Like, there's problems with the games, like multiplayer and stuff. But like for me, like what they're putting out, we all expect and we all love, and the quality just improves by every game, and they're just setting like an awesome example. And that's all I have to say.
Kind of skipping ahead, but part of the reason I think Shadow of the Erdtree improves around the main game is the way they do the storytelling. And I think there's a direct parallel between Armored Core 6's delivery of the story and what you do in Shadow of the Erdtree. And that's kind of like to do an in-game thing, which had about the Age of Crucible. I do think Elden Ring is like FromSoft took all the best parts of their Souls games and other games and put it in a Crucible to melt everything down into this perfect thing that it became Elden Ring.
100%.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Miyazaki said in an interview not too long ago that it's like, yeah, Elden Ring's still like not quite my perfect like art like fantasy RPG. So
Yeah.
I don't know. He's still gonna try and one up himself one time, but I don't know, man.
And I have every faith that he's going to.
I agree.
No, it's true.
That's also
It's true.
a very part of a Japanese philosophy about striving for perfection is
Yeah.
something that you'll never achieve, but every day if you get a little closer, that's
Yeah.
striving for perfection. And that kind of goes into what he was saying.
100%.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things too is that like everybody is always hyped for these games, and then when they come out, they actually hit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
their quality lives up to what everybody's expectations are, which is rare in the games industry. So it's
Yeah,
good to see.
they famously like don't underestimate the intelligence and the capability of the audience, right? Like they
Mhm.
don't really pander, they don't really like just go by the book. Yes, there are like some repeat bosses, some stuff like that, but as far as like the enjoyment of the game goes, they know that like they can put super deep stuff in there, and the community that cares will go and seek it out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And kind of they give the people the freedom to like kind of try and break shit, but like they're so good at all that stuff. It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so my story, I'll be quick about it. Little less involved with FromSoft than you guys were. I started off with the Armored Core games. I played a lot of Armored Core on PS2 back in the day. Armored Core 3 and Armored Core Nexus were my big ones to start off with, but I did play earlier ones. And then I tried Dark Souls 3 on the Xbox One, and I just hit a wall at some point and gave up on it. And I went to Bloodborne, got pretty far in Bloodborne, but realized now, going back, that I had never figured out how to upgrade your weapon. And so I was pretty far into that game, having never once upgraded my weapon, and just hit a wall again where I was like, I have no fucking idea why I can't get past this boss, but I'm doing like slivers on this boss, and I feel like I should be doing better. So I also gave up on that one for a while. Then I didn't touch one again until Elden Ring, but Elden Ring clicked instantly with me. It was just something about the open world nature of it, and I got really into it and beat the game. I'm now on my third full playthrough, and have gotten pretty far in that one as well. And then I went and played Armored Core 6, and then I went back and played through Sekiro, which was amazing. Loved Sekiro. So it was a little different, and it was hard for me, but I do like it. And now I really want to go back and play Bloodborne, but I don't have a PlayStation. So put Bloodborne on PC, and I'll play it.
Please.
So there we go.
You just got to get a PlayStation.
Or I'll get a PlayStation. I probably do want to do that at some point.
You hit on something that I think is one of the strengths of Elden Ring as a Souls game. Is like you said, most Souls games you hit that wall and it's either get good or grind. With
Yeah,
Elden Ring, you can just take a left or a right and fuck off for a little bit and then
Yeah.
come back later.
it's amazing.
You're right.
So it's just as difficult, but it's so much more accessible because they removed so much of that like friction.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. Well,
agree.
without further ado, let's get into our spoiler cast, y'all. So, Mikola, the bad guy, I guess. It seems like.
Yeah.
And in America, maybe her a little more understandable than we thought before. Like, doesn't mean she's not a fuck, but she has her reasons at least.
I have thoughts on all this.
Yeah. Justice for Moog, says Angry Wookiees. Welcome to the chat, Angry Wookiees. Yeah,
Honestly,
I feel bad a little bit. I
Justice
mean,
for
Moog
Moog,
is
yeah.
still doing some fucked up shit, but like, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, in every From Software game, like everyone's kind of a piece of shit to some degree. You know what I mean? Like
There's really no good guys.
there's always those like there's always flashes of good people, but like of course everyone will end up dying. I mean, you got Sigurd or any of the Onion Knights in Dark Souls. You got Blythe, right? He was a good dude. He may have done
poor
some
Blythe.
bad stuff, you know what I mean? I don't know who was super good in the DLC. Maybe Thiolier and of course Ansbach.
Ansbach.
Yeah,
Ansbach.
who's the fucking
homie.
He's the homie. He's the badass.
I don't know, man. If you're Mog of the Blood Dynasty's lieutenant, maybe you're not that
Right.
good of a dude.
Yeah.
This is why I point to Thiolier, who seems like, I mean, he's like a poison boy, and he's
Just
like,
a simp.
yeah, he's
He's a
simping.
simp for Saint Trina. That's all there is.
You know what I mean? I don't think he's like what's the word I'm looking for? Where you're like, oh, the incel. I don't think he was an incel. I just think he was
Not
simping.
necessarily.
You know,
I think the thing though is someone who's like a master of poisons, though. I don't necessarily know.
Yeah.
You know,
That's true.
Exactly. So that's the thing about Souls games is they're in the fantasy genre. It would be considered grimdark, right?
Sure.
So it's like Joe Abercrombie or J.R.R. Martin is the world is shit
Yeah.
and everybody's shit. And sometimes there's people that are just less shits.
right?
And that's the weird thing about Mikola, because in Elden Ring, you're pretty much told you don't interact with him, but you're told like out of all of the America's brood, all of these demigods, he's the one that's the least shit. And maybe he's kind of a good guy.
Yeah.
And then halfway through Shadow of the Earth, you're like, oh no, he is a piece of shit, and he's been manipulating everyone.
Might
He's
be
just
the
been
worst of all.
secretly his puppet master this whole time, betraying people left and right.
Mhm.
And that's what I love about like the first part of the story is you get into this like dirty dozen crew of NPCs that are following Mikola, but they're all from different factions,
Yeah.
from the Shattered Lands and the Shadow Realm, and they're just all being brought together. And then when you have that reveal, and you're like, "Oh wow!" And
Yeah.
suddenly it's like everyone's at each other's throat.
Yeah,
and
totally true.
the realization of the fact that some of your actions in the base game were for sure doing a bit of Mikola's bidding, like especially when it comes to Radon.
Yeah.
Like the fact
Radon
that he
and Moog.
Yeah,
Yep.
and Moog. Yeah, the
Both.
fact that he needs you to go participate in this festival of Radon to kill Radon so he can have his body, or his soul, I guess. I don't know. The one thing that I just was a little bit, I guess, kind of off put a little bit by was it felt a little bit abrupt at the end to not have a little bit more lore around how Radon was brought into the scenario, because obviously there was so much put into like Ronnie's quest with like the finger slaying blade and how she had to remove the curse mark or like use the curse marks and like how that whole all worked to be able to like separate her soul from her body. And like we get it with Mikola where he's like getting rid of all his divesting all of his parts of himself as he's moving along this journey, but we don't really get it for Radon. We just know that he gets killed,
So remember, the reason Ronnie separated her soul was so she'd stick around. Radon, once he dies, everyone's souls goes to the Shadow Realm.
The Shadow Realm.
Yeah.
And then one would presume the reason that doesn't happen to Mog was because of his omen cursed blood. So
Totally.
and the Tarnish is the backup plan because it was supposed to be Mikola's sister that killed Radon.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
you were just the backup. And I would assume that maybe Melania was supposed to wake up and kill Mog, and that's how it was supposed to do. I don't know.
Well,
But then when we get to the Marika stuff, like that gets all sorts of complicated.
yeah,
absolutely.
like that's the thing that isn't really explained the most is Marika's story essentially in the DLC. Like we saw, I mean, we understand what we can divine what we can from items and from playing through the base game and the little bits that we get from actually exploring the DLC, like for instance going to the shaman village and you know, seeing the little tree and as well as like the cinematic like trailer for the DLC as well. But you know, a lot of people complain that like we didn't get more about her. It was more about Radon and Miquella's story. But at least with Miquella and Radon, like we get a lot from the game. You know what I mean? So there's like more information. But like, you know,
Yeah, I
as
disagree with the Marika thing because we get her origin story.
we do.
We find out where she's from. We
Mhm.
find out what her plan was. We learn about how she fake betrayed her people and then betrayed the people that were torturing her people. So
Yeah.
like
I
we get
mean,
all sorts of
it's
Why she hates the Omen.
prequel stories.
It's
I
still
mean,
pretty
yeah, we get
vague though. Like we understand the basis of what you're saying, but like exactly what the betrayal isn't fully explained. You can draw like conclusions from what you think is happening, as well as like the gateway that she creates with all those bodies. Like, who came up with that? You know, was it the Horn Scent or was it the shamans? I mean, like, there's so much shit that's not explained, as well as like even in the trailer, she's reaching into like clothes or something and pulling out those rune threads. No one knows what that body is. It could be like one of 10 things on Reddit. I see a different post every fucking day saying, "Oh, it's this. No, it's that. Oh no, hold on, it's the Glomide Queen. Oh, it's the fucking it's the Godskin people. Oh no, it's this guy." It's like that's all I'm saying is that I feel like there's more questions about Marika than there are with about Miquella and Radon, at least. That's
Well,
just the way I
know
see
that
it.
we know that she was a Newman, which is a
Yep.
race of people that came from outside the lands between. And we know of at least two different lands from the outside lands between the Reed lands and the Banished lands.
Yeah.
The Newman, the name might be a reference to Tolkien's Numenorians, so Aragorn's ancestors.
Mhm.
And to me, like if you've ever read the Witcher series, they're kind of like the Witcher's elves, that they're
Mhm.
long lived, they can't have a lot of kids, and they
Yep.
come from a different realm.
Yeah.
And they also have Empyrean blood, which means that Empyrean blood means you can reach apotheosis, which translates in Greek to ascending to godhood.
To God. Okay.
And that's what we
Hold
learn
on. Where did you get all of that information from? Can you explain that to me?
So we knew that the Newmen were from outside the lands between. We know that
Yes.
Marika was of Newman stock. After that, some of that is a little bit of either assumptions or kind of piecing things together.
That's my point. That right there is my point. Like what you're saying, we know is I understand that we're inferring stuff, and you are right about her being a Newman for the most part. But I've even seen people online saying that she might be a Newman, and also like, is every shaman a Newman?
Well,
So,
there is some
some
translation
of it-
stuff there a little bit where
I was about to say
okay.
where the words shaman and saint are just the English translations to whatever the actual Japanese word is, and I
Mhm.
believe it's has to do with like finding divinity for all intents and purposes.
yeah.
Okay, but
yeah,
what's the
it-
difference between a Newman and a shaman? Because okay, let's bring it back. Let's roll it back. We're getting into this already, and this is great. We're having fun with it. But hold up, let's roll it back here. Let's start at the very beginning here. All right, the DLC. We're talking about the DLC. We can't obviously spoil like the main plot of the game, right? But we're mostly just talking about the DLC, right? So, let's just start at the beginning of the DLC, right? So we have to kill Moog, right, to get to the body of Miquella, right? So Miquella's body. Let's start there, right? Because that's the beginning of the DLC. Why is his body so big? Can we talk about that?
Sure, let me
Start
chime
there.
in there.
Because like,
So
you know, he looks
so-
totally different than he does as the end boss. Am I right there? People might be confused
Sure.
about that.
But absolutely. So the Miquella was growing the Erdtree, right? To try
with their own blood.
with his their
own
own own blood, yeah. So they were like embedded, and you can see in Melania's cutscene, were embedded into this Erdtree, or Erdtree,
Erdtree, yeah.
and you can see this kind of figure that is kind of growing within this tree, right? And there is like a version of it. There's like the version that is like where that hip bone that the cocoon is housed within seems to be. But then there's also this kind of like more intrinsically like wrapped up in the roots version that some people think, like you can kind of see their hair coming down there and everything on the right side a little bit more. Yeah, there you go, right there. So some people think that like that is Miquela's actual body, and that I've seen a couple different theories about what's in the cocoon, but that Moog might have been potentially mistaken, and that he thinks that is like the true body of Miquela, but it like wasn't necessarily. I'm not exactly sure who that means that the body is, but that Miquela is part of his divesting his flesh to be able to get to the Shadowlands was through this, whatever this ritual was. So I'm not sure.
So that's a little confusing, right? Because it's like through Miquela's body we're getting to the Shadowlands, right? So like wouldn't his body actually have to be there, or does he have two bodies? What's up, Arturo?
Oh, remember that the Halligate tree had three purposes.
Okay.
He was basically a substitute for the Elden tree, where those born without grace could live without being punished or hunted down.
Okay.
It was also a way to preserve his sister because she was poisoned by the scarlet rot. And finally, remember, he was born with the curse of eternal youth, and through the Hallig tree, he was attempting to grow into adulthood. We think, because remember, the whole Hallig tree ID plot was like subterfuge. Now, when we get to the game, and I think what happened was Moog did steal Miquela's body from inside the tree, which is why the Hallig tree stopped growing.
Yeah.
And but of course we learned that it was actually, that was all Miquela's plan all the time. Mog was bamboozled, so why he had to divest his body was, when you die in the lands between, unless you're tarnished without grace, you soul gets sent back to the realm of shadows. Ever since the America's death rune was destroyed, so he had, by divesting his body, his soul went to the shadow realm, and then his body became a gateway, which Lita the Needle Knight, one of his followers, tells you to follow, is what I gleaned from the story anyways.
Yeah.
That makes sense, but I feel like that sort of disproves the fact that like Miquela's body can't be in the Erdtree roots anymore, right? I mean, maybe it was at one point. Maybe his hair grew off or something.
What I think is that cocoon was, he put his, like, that's his body, but then the like bigger figure that you're seeing grow up through the thing, like that's just like kind of his essence growing into this tree. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and just like the influence of his body, like nutrifying this tree, and so therefore it's kind of taking his shape. So like, therefore, like that body, I guess, is just kind of decrepit and whatever. And like, even though like, yes, a lot of the demigods like are all pretty humanoid. Like, we have seen other instances in which they grow quite a bit. For instance, like in the first cutscene, the animatics that initially are shown in the Elden Ring initial cutscene, like we see Radon being about the same size as Moog, or not Moog, Morgott, when they're fighting in that scene, and then Radon obviously gets quite a bit bigger later on. Like, and that could be. I've heard some people speculate that happens when they get their great rune or something. So, you know, this hand does seem quite a bit bigger than the Miquela that we fight. And then the other thing that's interesting about the Miquela that we fight is like we see him with the 4 arms, which is similar to Ronnie's 4 arms, which is interesting. And since he's divested himself of all those other things, it seems like that 4-armed figure seems to be maybe connected to what your spirit self is like, or something like that.
Okay.
Because Ronnie is
Okay.
also a four-armed witch, you know what I mean, and she's just
Yeah.
a spirit at that point too. So, and then it's interesting.
Interesting.
Something that I really liked initially, again, when I came to find that Radon was one of the final bosses, I was like, oh, why isn't it Godwin, not Godwin, right? The first.
Yeah, right. A lot of
Um,
people were talking about Godwin after
But
the
then
fact, for sure.
I realized that we already know that Mikula failed to bring Godwin back with that eclipse.
Right.
To give him the proper death. So I think maybe that's just it's
Not to mention his soul is just gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
the
like
souls,
he was only
souls go to the Shadow Realm, and his is just gone.
Yeah.
And remember, we're technically fighting Radon's soul inside Mog's body,
Yeah.
being controlled by Mikela.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and thank you for clarifying that. That is actually really important, right? That's a big part of it. If you miss that, because I'll tell you what, when I played through the game and I beat Radon, I was like, man, that was crazy. And then I read someone was like, yeah, it was Mog's body, and I was like, totally missed that.
Yeah, I wish they
totally.
Which is why he's using both Radon and Mog's signature moves.
I'll use blood flame.
Yeah.
Once you see that blood flame, you're like, oh crap. But also, like, you learn that in the specimen library through
with Ansbach.
He's the one that, and you actually see some of the bodies hanging there, and that's when you start piecing together what exactly is happening, and you're like,
right.
oh fuck, because there's two big what the fuck moments early on. Mm-hmm. One is when Mikula diverses himself of his rune, and you learn the fucking truth, and then that moment with Ansbach when you like, oh, this is his plan all along.
Yeah. Also, so something you can notice, it's hard to see. I wish they had made the model of Radon a little bit more monstrous and looking a little more like Moog, but you can see horns. But you can see horns coming out of his armor in places. It's just very subtle, which is fine because I think they wanted him to look like OG, like Radon in his prime. But I wish you could have seen some of Moog's monstrosities coming out around him.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest two mysteries that are left on... Yeah, go for it.
Those horns come up a lot because it also shows you like where certain ghosts are actually horn set, or when people have omen curse blood, like that's a really big sign.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so like the horns do signify the crucible and the horn scent, right? Essentially.
Yes, and it's also why the omen blood is a curse. It's vestiges of the old crucible, which is shunned by the Golden Order.
Right.
And so curse is all a matter of perspective, right? That's like the if you were a pagan and then like the Christians took you over and they were like, oh yeah, he's still got pagan blood in him, so he's like seeing sprites in the woods because he's a crazy person, and you're like, no, he was just a different religion before you took it over. You know?
Yeah. So it's basically like they're still like. It's
Will you
still
pause right here real fast?
It's still the same, like, essentially it's the same power source, and like it's almost the same like energy, right? Like almost like the same God blessing. It's just that it's being bastardized by Marika and in turn the Golden Order. But then it's like you can't get rid of the horns because that's part of the same divine lineage, right? And that's why the curse of the horn scent is what they're calling the omens. But it's like, that's it's crazy when you think of it that way, because when you're playing through the original game, you're like, oh yeah, all these like cursed people. But then when you realize like that's actually some holy shit that's happening, it's even more sad, and it does make sense. And yes, there's like that, and
the only big thing we know about the Crucible was that it was the primordial energy that became the Elden Tree.
Yeah, exactly. And that, like, it's really symbolic of kind of the early days of our Earth, right? And the fact that life was much more messy and evolution and everything was taking place, all the ways that everything like evolved forward, and having more like kind of strange and I don't know, just like different ways that things evolved forward. But the reason I wanted you to pause on that last still of that girl with the that one right there is, if you look up real fast, Jacob, if you can bring it up, what is her name?
That boss. I'm sure it's
the Saint of the Bud, Romina, Saint of the Bud. Romina, yeah.
Romina?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her, if we can get a good image of her weapon,
Mhm.
that's for sure her weapon.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
a lot of people on Reddit like theorize that what we're seeing in this trailer is her before being overcome
Yeah.
by the rot and embracing the rot. There a lot of people are saying that essentially like the difference between her and Melania is rejecting the rot and Romina is embracing the rot. And so if let's say Melania, embraced the rot, she could have taken a form similar to this fucked up shit right here.
Yeah.
I think that's what Gowrie was trying to get for Millicent as well. It's for that exact situation.
Right.
Oh yeah, especially because the pests are followers of the rot, right?
Yep.
I did.
Melania's children, I think.
Yeah, they are. That's I've also read that on Reddit.
Yeah, and
but again, it's
there's that blade in the at the bottom of the rot lake. When you go into that one like temple down there that they're all worshiping, and there's the stinger dagger that you can get, and that is like said to be the stinger of like a one of the gods of rot. That maybe is where the blue dancer swordsman sealed the god of rot away within that thing.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah, anyways. Yeah.
But again, all of this like I said, as much as we want to think we know exactly what Miyazaki's thinking, I don't even think, like, honestly, I don't think they really have a true meaning to everything. Like, they have, I feel like they also have guidelines, and they also sort of have their own headcanon. I feel like every dev working on this story at From Software has their own headcanon, and they're sort of sticking to an outline, but for the most part, they're making it just vague enough for all of us to just have fun with and, like, try to theorize,
I think that's the whole point. The whole point is for everybody to be able to interpret it how they see it.
For me, it very much feels like the Bible, where it's like the Bible was the Bible. Well, no, seriously, like the Bible was written by 12 different people.
Yeah,
and it was all at different parts of history. The end of the Bible was written in like when like the Byzantine Empire is almost like Rome is done already. Like there's all like there's vastly different perspectives. So there's all these different ways that it's being told, that the story is being told, and like all of it is probably from a certain perspective. I'm not saying all the Bible is true. I'm just saying like it takes all of these different perspectives and tells these kind of tall tales that could be allegory, they could be metaphor, they could be realistic history. With some of it we know kind of is. It's like, so I like that all of these games are very much uncovering in similar ways and reading into. Sometimes it could be like, oh yeah, like there was this original sin that she did, but like was that just someone being mad at her? Like I love all that. So it's great.
So to follow on that metaphor, the Age of the Crucible is the Old Testament.
100%.
The Golden Order is the New Testament, and the game is actually post Revelations.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Or maybe the Tarnished is the fucking Horseman, essentially, right? Maybe the Revelations is what we're playing.
So like all of these Souls games, quote unquote, they all take place in a magical post-apocalypse where everything's gone to shit and everything is shit. And
That's
the
true.
games itself, you either have to find the 5 MacGuffins or kill the 5 MacGuffins to reshape the world into restarting the universe for all intents and purposes. And then your different endings in Elden Ring are which factions you go. What I find fascinating is Shadow of the Erdtree gave us a lot of insight into what happened before the Golden Order and the Elden Tree.
Yes.
And also things that we didn't realize happened, because we knew there was a war of consolidation in the lands between, where Marika sent her consort to defeat the giants and then the dragons, and at some point they fought a war against the Lake Lumeria people, but we had no idea there was a secret war all along. And also, real quick, who's on the team? Was the Land of Shadows always separate from the Lands Between, or did it physically exist in the Lands Between? And when Marika reached apotheosis, she sealed it away so no one else could access that divine gate. Because I'm in Team B. I feel like the Shadow Realm might have been in the middle of the Lands Between.
I mean, it literally says,
as soon
when you go to that tower, it says the center of the Lands Between. So that's the only way that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like that tower kind of, to me, was definitive. But again, what do you think, Arturo?
I would just say that I was reading a lore video earlier, watching a lore video, and they talked about how the Hornacet, they have a twin spiral image that's their symbolism for the crucible,
Yep.
and that it's always reaching up to the heavens, and how that incorporates to the El Amin Tower. There's also a double spiral reaching up to literally a divine gate. So that gives you a lot of like that idea of like the metaphor is also literal.
Symbol, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it was speculized.
Yeah,
our term.
that's our word here. That's our word here.
It was speculized in the original trailer for Shadow of the Erdtree that gate was kind of the Crucible's like kind of final embodiment or whatever it was, or like the gate to godhood or whatever that is. So pretty interesting. And then to pivot a little bit, one of my favorite little lore bits in this was also to find out about what are they called?
There's that spiral spell, I think, that even tells gives that information that he was giving us right now. Yeah.
Was to find out about Meter, the mother of fingers, and how there was a beast from the stars that came down before the Elden Beast, and to find out that they've been forsaken for this whole time, and that God hasn't reached out with them with any information in quite some time. And
it changes the original game completely.
It does.
Now we find out the two fingers don't know shit, which means their finger readers are doing fuck knows what. And Marika was basically using a higher power, not actually she wasn't even worshiping the greater will. She was using the greater will to basically ensure all her plans went through, which again, it's just I love how the game both tells a new story while giving you like mind-blowing tidbits of facts that completely change what we'd already played.
Some people on Reddit were saying that like maybe she was still in contact with the greater will, but like none of the fucking fingers are, like straight up.
Exactly.
I think specifically her priest Ymir mentions that she's broken and no longer communicates with the greater will. And we don't know when that happened. We just know that she fell from the sky well before the Elden Tree and the Golden Order.
That is true, so I think that to me is pretty definitive that the fingers weren't connected to the greater will anymore. But there is a chance that the Elden Beast still was part of the greater will or still in contact with the greater will. But there's clearly a disconnect between the fingers and even the Elden Beast, most likely.
It's interesting in the Elden Beast fight. So the arena that you're in that is kind of taken from a panel in Berserk where he gets to like that outer place that's all MC Escher like, and it stands kind of at the edge of this thing and sees all of these like pillars and trees in like the distance or whatever. But it's kind of said to be, or it's been speculated again that when you're in there, like those are all other giant Erd trees, right? And that it's kind of like the idea is like maybe we're just in one iteration of a universe, and maybe the golden or the greater will kind of just wrote our universe off like a failed experiment, like it's kind of that idea of like, oh, like are we really the center of the story in some other way? And so Meter, the mother of fingers, was an interesting kind of revelation in that, like, oh, like maybe this all, maybe there's seems like there's a lot of other forces that we don't truly understand.
I mean, there's also multiple other outer gods that are trying to enforce their will on the lands between. I think the Formless Mother is probably the biggest one, was her infiltration of Mog. But there were also like other outer gods that have like little hints and bits and pieces.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there are like a lot more gods for sure. Yeah.
The Frenzied Flame potentially might be another outer god.
The serpent.
I don't know. We don't know much
serpent.
about
The serpent.
Right. And the serpent. Right. Yeah. The Rykard.
Two serpents. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey,
we don't know if they're the same, one and the same, or if they're separate things, or what.
That's what I was gonna ask you really quick, Randy. Is do you feel like the two serpents are related? in any way?
I'm leaning towards no, because you find the snake skin in
The skin,
Bonnie
yeah.
Village, and it looks like Rykard. It's a completely different style of snake compared to Mesmer's snakes. So it's a different style. So
Crazy.
I feel like there's nothing so far like with strong suggestion to say that they're the same being or same outer influence or whatever. But I feel that's why I feel like there's two different things.
Yeah. So two snakes, Glow-eyed Queen, Godskin stuff, right? Is that
Rot?
There's a
The
rot.
rock god, yeah. The giant's flame is like that. There's a god. I forget what it's named.
So the list from the fandom wiki is Formless Mother, Outer God of Rot, Outer God of the Twin Bird, the Greater Will, Outer God of the Frenzied Flame.
Yeah.
And then there might be some other ones that are speculated, including a moon, a blood star, and a fell god. But we don't. There's not.
Yeah, the fell god is speculated to be that eye that's within the giant.
I'm glad that you brought up the Dark Moon too, because I never even thought of that as being like more than just a celestial body. But you're right. I mean, it does grant different powers. It's like
that's what
frost.
A lot of the glintstones. That's what a lot of the glintstone sorceries worship. It's definitely what the Lake of Lemuria kingdom utilized. But then we hear the Ymir, which, if I remember correctly, that's actually his name is based on a Norse giant
frost giant
that was an enemy of Thor. But he talks about how he realized that the moon was actually just another
closest thing, just the closest thing to us. Yeah, exactly.
Because he also mentions that kind of like Carl Sagan talks about how we're all just stardust, really, when you think about it. So we're all children of the stars. That's a direct quote from Ymir saying that we all came from the stars, and that's where the power comes from outside the void.
Yeah. So I've read a lot on Reddit that people are saying that like the Greater Will may have essentially been like the Big Bang, and that it created the world and then came back later, and the reason why stars are dropping on the planet is because they're revisiting the planet after creating it eons ago to see like who's on the planet and to take it over. That's why they sent Meter. Again, this is all hypothetical shit.
That's very Judeo-Christian. I feel more that the outer gods are more like the Lovecraftian elder gods and outer gods, where like I think they're all like vying for different control, and the Greater Will is just maybe that's just like propaganda. We don't know if he's top dog or not. We just know that he sent an emissary to the Crucible very early on in the form of Meter, and that later on he through the two fingers showed Marika how to gain godlike powers. And from what we can assume, Marika was just using the two fingers and the Greater Will to create both her vengeance and then her perfect worldly order. But because it was based on betrayal and original sin, everything she touched was fuck, which is why half her kids were cursed.
Yep, totally.
There's also sorry, let me just say this too. There's also one really big revelation we've been dancing around with this exact topic, that Ymir also says that that the Greater Will is also involved in glintstone sorceries as well.
Well, we've seen some of it, like amber glintstone or amber star sorceries, and like for instance on the sunflower boss, the Erdtree flower avatar or the shadow tree flower avatar. This is just a fun little detail. You can see this like amber glow, and it's the Pleiades constellation, which is interesting.
Whoa.
Which is like, if you know some astrology stuff or astronomy stuff, I always get those mixed up. There's some like, there's been some funny conspiracy theories about like maybe us coming from the Pleiades constellation, and like comets that have intersected with our solar system and stuff coming from there and things like that. Anyways, just interesting.
Sorry, my friend just showed up. I don't know if you guys heard my doorbell.
But yeah, Amber Starlight, and then, if you can find a picture of the Shadow Tree avatar, you can see it right in his sunflower area there. It's cool.
Yeah. I'll pull it up right now.
Real quick, fuck that boss.
We actually
fucked
Jacob
that thing up, dude.
We fucked that thing up because I had fire spells and I was just sitting at its roots like just loading it up with fire, and then Jacob was just massacring it, and we fucked it up.
Yeah, it's so fun co-oping in this game.
Depends on your build, man. That boss can be easy or just annoying.
So
True.
yeah, I've summoned in Jacob for a few things because I am like this total glass cannon build where I'm just like I'm a sorcerer who gets like if any major hits like take me down so fast. So like
what is your bigger at?
It's only at 45. So yeah, I should keep going. I've got enough to 45.
Yeah, at least get it to 60, man. Come on.
60. Yep. At least.
But my intelligence is at 75, and I'm like a spell sword, so I've got a staff in my left hand and a sword in my right hand that scales with intelligence, obviously, I have some dex too, so whatever.
I got thoughts about how spread out his build is, and I've told Arturo the same thing. I'm like, focus your fucking build so you can have high stats in a few things and not like a little everywhere. But hey, I digress.
Real quick, so we're talking about anything. What do you guys think about the DLC's level scaling and how it compares to Erdtree? Because I was shocked to find out it was so controversial and that people were mad they had to engage with it. And I thought that was just like, maybe I'm being opinionated, but I thought that was kind of just dumb.
Yeah,
it's like I
think there are some players in Elden Ring and in Souls games in general. Like I don't necessarily have a perspective on this, but I think there are some players who are just very
babies.
I think they just want to play it a very specific way, and they actually think that other people are babies they just want to like head boss rush, don't explore. They just want to go from boss to boss and just take it on and get good at each boss, and I think they thought that having to explore, they didn't want to do that. They just wanted to like grind or just whatever they had to do just to boss and just get through it. Where for me, the whole point of Elden Ring and the reason it's one of my favorite games of all time as well is that the exploration is immaculate and wondrous and amazing and
absolutely
and maybe better than any other game ever. So
I think Elden Ring's exploration was amazing, and I think how they got it tighter in Shadow of the Erdtree and stacked it more vertical, and the way you found like there are a couple areas that like. If you had told me before I played the game that that's how you got to point C, I would have told you that's insane. That's completely insane. And then like, oh my god, I'm now in the Abyssal Woods. How the fuck did this happen?
What do you got, Randy?
I was gonna say that the leveling system I feel like is a good solution. I think it could have been better. Like if they would have increased the amount of pickups. So that you're not forced to explore. So those people that just want a boss rush can. So like make it to where every boss drops one of them or a couple.
I think so too. I also think every boss can drop one.
Instead of having 50 total, they could have had like 70 and then spread it out so that people that explore
you could miss some.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, some of those skadooshas were very they were so there's like one minor enemy that might or might not drop it. So not gonna lie, I had to use a video to find the last couple ones to max out. And I don't think I would have been able to find them without
just a couple of tweaks. I feel like it would have been like really, really solid. But I mean, as it is, I think it's fine. Like I'm one of those explorers too. Like my first playthrough, I'm literally gonna explore everything before I go any further. Like that's just how I am.
Same.
Yeah.
Second playthrough, third playthrough, it's a different story. I know I'm just gonna rush through and do what I need to do. But the first time at least, I'm just gonna explore everywhere. Yeah.
I do it every time.
So that Thursday night when the game released, I just happened to be gaming at the same time Jacob was, and we were just in a Discord chat. We're both playing our separate games, but we were like talking to each other like we were both exploring the same area together, even though we weren't. And that was a very cool gaming moment for me. You don't really experience that a lot. And
that was a blast, cool. Dude. I kept yelling at Arturo. I was like, wait, hold on. Don't tell me specifics. Just tell me in general. I'm like, don't spoil everything. But we were having a lot of fun.
What did you find and where did you find it?
Yeah, I was like, just tell me where.
That reminds me of an old gaming experience where me and my friend brought I brought my Xbox 360 over to his house, and we both started Oblivion at the same time, but went completely different directions. And then we'd look over every once in a while, and we were just getting high and hanging out all night. And
awesome.
and I would just look over and I'd be like, where the fuck are you? Like you know what I mean? Like, and it just that kind of stuff is so fun.
But one man's too much information is another man's too little information.
That's a new
Yeah.
one, Jacob.
Yeah.
On the topic of like the level design, I feel
Yeah.
like it's like, to me, it was they took Dark Souls level design and put it into a whole open world, and I was
Yeah,
it blew
totally.
my mind. It's just so cool, and I mean they're masters at level design. We already know this, but like to take that level of quality and expand it to something that big, because I mean the main map of Elden Ring was already really good, but it didn't have like the intricacies of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, and it just, you go in there and you're like, there's so many places to go, and yeah, it's smaller than the main map, but like there's just as much to explore, I feel like, because of how much level there is. Like there's high and low, and there's so many places in between. It's so sick.
Yeah, it's a vertical density is how I would put it.
I like
Yeah.
that boulder.
Great phrase,
That is
yeah.
a nice boulder.
It just makes me think about what is their next game gonna be, like their next game in the Souls like category. Because if they're gonna improve on Shadow of the Erdtree, like, whoa, baby.
I think in some ways, unless they're gonna like continue Elden Ring, which is very possible, it was very profitable for them, obviously, and it's probably
Well,
one
there
of
was
the
an
biggest.
interview recently with Miyazaki that he didn't put that out of question.
Totally.
He says, yeah,
But
I won't see it
also
next. It's not going to be
I
the
also-
next game.
no.
well, there's also 2 teams from FromSoft, so it's a little
No,
hard to say, but-
stop. You're just
Well, I'm
hoping
just-
for it. You're just
no,
hoping
I'm
for
just I'm just saying there's the Armored Core team or / Sekiro team, and then there's the
Yeah.
Miyazaki team. But I can see them really pivoting and going, like, maybe taking everything that they learned through this and bringing it back to a more linear, not linear,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
hoping that's the case, honestly.
Yeah,
I
same.
can see that too. We'll see. I want them to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah,
period.
that's literally all it comes out to. Like,
That's it.
You guys do what you want to do. I'm here for it, no matter what.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I wanna just keep this moving along here a little bit. I want to kind of maybe sort of wrap up with any other story stuff we want to talk about, and then I kind of want to get into some more kind of listicle kind of stuff. So one last question that I kind of had that I thought maybe would be touched on a little bit more, but we kind of get some information about it mainly through the butterflies and some little cutscenes here and there. But we pretty much know now that at least it's pretty darn close to known that Melina and Mesmer, brother and sister.
Mel's the fourth child.
Yeah.
And that they both have the flame within them.
Mesmer was the eldest.
He's
Yeah.
the
There is
first-
they did talk about he was a mentor to Ragadon, which
Radagon, yeah.
I believe Ragadon is older than Michaela and Melania, because I thought they were the youngest, the prodigy twins. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but
because
thought
I think it's Godwin first.
Mm-hmm.
Godwin is first, and then Radagon, Ronnie, and
You're thinking Rykard. I think,
Rykard.
both
Yeah,
of you,
they
but
all
that's
they all
Rykard.
came. They all
Yes.
came later, and then when Radagon and Marika had children, they had Mesmer, Melania, Mikola, and then Melina.
See, that
Yes.
that doesn't make sense, because Mesmer would have to be older than Radagon, because
I
he
think
was
you
one
mean
of
Rykard, not
Radagon's-
Radagon. Really?
No,
they're all-
there's part of
brothers.
the lore that he was the mentor to
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Radon. Sorry, Radon.
Radon. Yeah.
So Mesmer had to be older. So we don't know if he's a half brother to
Well, 'cause-
them, or
Because Radon was
Because-
born of
good-
Liurnia chick. What's her name?
Renala.
Renala.
Renala. There it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was
Yes,
Renala
yeah.
and
and
Radigan.
remember that. And Relana, her sister,
Yeah.
was a follower of
Follower of
Mesmer, and
Mesmer,
it's kind of hinted like maybe they were doing a little bit more than just following. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
so.
Maybe, yeah.
That's the whole point of Mesmer. We find out that he's probably the eldest child, and he
Yeah.
was sent on this
Yeah.
crusade, and just no one spoke of him again, like he was the dog
I
from
mean,
The Simpsons.
Radagon and Marika could have had a child before they were technically together.
Totally.
You know?
And
Also
so what's
true.
interesting is that Melina doesn't remember her past, right, or her purpose, and so
does remember her mother.
as
Yeah.
yes, but what I'm saying is, as a part of hiding the Shadowlands away, and Mesmer, who seemingly, there's a couple of twins. There's Moog and Morgott, right? There's Melania and Mikola, and so seemingly it makes sense in a lot of ways to me that there would be
Mesmer.
Melina and Mesmer, and they both have the eye thing.
You're right.
And
it seems like like Mesmer is sealing the serpent inside of him with the eye, whereas Melina seems to be sealing the Glowmite Queen inside of her eye.
100%. And then also
seems to be.
And then also they both have flames within them. Her flame to be able to burn the Erdtree. His flame is to burn the shadow or the vines that allow you to get up to the divine gate there.
True.
So she doesn't remember. She says that she was born at the foot of the Erdtree, meaning like for me, I kind of think that maybe Marika ascended to godhood, brought her there. You know what I mean? But then she was. Her memory was erased, or she hid her origin from her. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, technically, like
the two big things we don't know is when did Marika hide the Shadow Realm?
Exactly.
And when did the crusade in the Shadow Realm start?
That's the thing.
Was that the first war before the War of Consolidation?
No, here's the thing.
So because Radahn, go ahead.
Yeah, you're touching on something that I was about to say as well. Is like. We're assuming that all this shit went down before the Erdtree and before the Lands of Between as we know it, but that's not confirmed to be true. And a lot of people on Reddit have been talking about that happening after the fact. And I think a lot of the lore and things that you see like make sense where the land, like the Shadow Realms being hidden, doesn't necessarily had to have happened like before the Mesmer burning everything and destroying everything. So technically Melina could have been born at the foot of the Erdtree alongside Mesmer. And their crusade could have happened after the fact while the Erdtree was still, maybe like the size of a minor Erdtree. You know what I mean? Just because like what she did with the gate that we see during that trailer doesn't necessarily have to have happened after the Crusades. I think that the Crusades happened after that, which then that still makes sense. You could still say, well, Melina might have been born at the foot of the Erdtree alongside Mesmer, especially if they're the eldest, right? And you do see a lot of statues and stuff in the Shadow Realms of how happy Marika was with Mesmer as her kid. And, Melina does seem kind of like a lost child as well. She probably cared less about Melina than she did Mesmer. If you look at all those statues, she's just happy with only one child. It kind of even unfolds like more of a tragic story about Melina in the first place. Why wouldn't she want to wipe her memory if she didn't give a fuck about Melina anyway, right?
Yeah, the lore also hints that Marika led the crusade with Mesmer before she abandoned him.
Right.
But there's some things we can kind of assume based on logic on timeline. We know that at some time Marika hooked up with the Two Fingers. We know at some time she tricked the Hornset into pretending to be their ally, which we assume she used to get to the Divine Gate to reach Apotheosis, which then she created the Elden Tree and the Golden Order and the Elden Ring using the Greater Will's power. But that's really the only things that we know. And then we can also assume that Mesmer is the oldest child because otherwise he wouldn't have been a mentor to Radahn specifically.
Yeah.
Right.
But after that, the timeline gets all wishy-washy, like what happened first, what happened next. And again, we don't know, did she seal away the Land of the Shadows and then send Mesmer, or did she go with Mesmer to the Land of the Shadow, abandon him, and then seal it away?
Yeah,
we have no idea.
I think it's the latter.
I think she left him there to keep everything in order.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 I also think that. Oh, go for it.
No, I mean when you talk to like this, like those spirits that like talk, but you don't hear their voices, and they're like talking about stuff, or various NPCs, like they're usually saying like, "Oh, Marika, are you ever gonna come back? Mesmer's sad." Like everyone there knows who the fuck Marika is, and Marika is already basically a god. Like there's statues of her like as a goddess. The people chopped her head off on the statues because they hate her guts because she hid them all away. So it's clear to me at least that like she had already transcended these lands and created the Erdtree and created the Golden Order and all of that before they came and just stomped everything and then completely abandoned everyone and hid them in another dimension, essentially. Right?
Well, and also for me, the fact that Melina, we kind of know is the Gloam-eyed queen from her ending, right?
Yeah.
That the Godskins and all that kind of stuff, their whole apostle status and everything that was happening, their crusade that was happening, seemed to have been happening in the past in some way or another, and we don't really know what gods they were coming from, if they were demigods or if they were going for more of like the outer gods, or if they were destined to kill anyone that ascends to godhood. So they very much could have been more involved in the lands of shadow. And we see in that trailer her pull those threads from what's been speculated as a godskin like satchel that
Yeah, that's what
and
it looks like.
it looks like it for sure. And then whatever the idea that maybe they was talking about the Gloam-eyed queen like cradling stuff. Anyways, I just think there's something there with Melina and her being like the Gloam-eyed queen being sealed away within her by America in some way or another, so that she can be like, put that all behind you and come here and help guide my tarnished champion to start a new era with
and
me.
if Melina was connected to that, maybe it's America like grabbing the rune from her, because Melina doesn't have rune. Unlike the rest of the demigods, she doesn't have a rune.
And that
There's no
rune is very
mention of
much
it
in the
anywhere.
Elden Ring. That arc is the bottom of the Elden Ring that we see, right?
So that could be as well as like that. Maybe that was America Melina the whole time.
Melina
That's
the whole time,
wild.
Yeah.
That's also wild.
super wild.
Maybe when she
If
took
I
the
remember
rune
correctly, the two fingers had two options for who could replace America, and it was Mekala and Melania, right? Sorry, Melina.
there was three.
And Ronnie is also
one.
an Empyrean.
Yeah.
Ronnie. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, Ronnie. Which is why she ended up doing the Night of the Black Knives in the first place, because she's like, fuck that. I do not want to do that shit. Fuck that.
But maybe when we're talking about Melina's memory, it's like maybe that was the point when she lost it, whenever America took the rune from her.
Yeah,
it just it kind of reset her as a being. She just knows these small details,
And we've seen, because of Mesmer's treatment and her sealing away that stuff within him by closing his eye, that's where I get the whole Gloam-eyed thing from her, to closing Melina's eyes so she can't open that part of herself. And that's why in her ending we see her open that eye and then therefore embody that again.
The seduction and the betrayal could have just been like as simple as like a mother's love being like fake on the outside, so that she could just steal everything from Melina, basically, right?
Well, if we're talking about the seduction and betrayal in Shadow, I think that's specifically Melania seducing the Hornset America seducing the Hornset and then betraying them. Which I want to know, because I have a very unique thought about the Hornset and the Shaman. What did you guys think about that, like, lore interaction?
The Hornset tortured the shamans all the time. They're fucked up.
The jars, dude. The jars are so brutal.
They're disgusting.
Yeah.
So when you think about the idea of a crucible, right? It's either in alchemy or metallurgy when you put something and you heat it up to purify it. It also can be considered a form of a test, like a metaphorical. In fact, when I was in Marine basic training, that's what we called the final exam, was like a 4-day, 3-day, crucible. And so what they were doing is, because the Newmen had Imperium blood potentially, they were being tortured in order to better ascend God, to get closer to God, to become saints, is what they use in the English translation. And that kind of makes the Hornset seem like evil. But honestly, that's very ethnocentric, because if you think in terms of, they worship the Crucible, and it's very like, if you read X-Men, like En Sabanur Apocalypse, like we will evolve through hardship and challenges, and that kind of pops up with the Crucible followers in the in Lands Between. But the Hornset, I think they thought they were doing the shaman a favor. They thought they were doing a good thing by torturing them and putting them in pots and melting them. And another term for crucible is like, basically you're melting something in a crucible so it all joins together. And that's how the Newmen were becoming one to become a saint in those weird jars. Finding that Belarus jail was
Everjail,
wild and freak.
Yeah,
But
I
the
mean,
idea that like we think, oh, America wanted revenge, but the Hornset weren't really that evil. They were just following their own culture and religious practices.
I mean, what the Hornsent were ultimately trying to do was create a god, which Marika ended up becoming, right? And she also was a shaman. You know what I mean? So they were close. It's just that it took her rage and her betrayal for it actually to happen, essentially.
And we see similar things with the Nox and their whole the mimic tier is actually kind of a like the final version of that, right? With the Albinurics and the silver tier stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they obviously fail.
People.
The Nox have a connection to the Newman. We don't
They
know
do.
what it is.
Yeah.
Because there was at least some sort of Newman settlement in the Eternal City, but were the Nox just Newman that were cursed? Were there two separate people? We honestly don't know. And
during America's war, go for it.
Yeah, we have no idea who the fuck lived in the ancient ruins of Rao. We only know that they predated the Hornset. Yeah. Because the Hornset learned from the ruins. So there's all aspects of lore that we haven't even touched because they haven't even told us yet.
Yeah. I mean, and you'll never know it. And I think that the whole point of all of this is that it's like you guys are just saying, New Testament, Old Testament, paganism before that. Like, I think that there's been a cycle of people trying to become gods since the fucking beginning of existence, and that the same in our reality too. Like, not so much creating gods, but like canonizing gods. It's like stuff to worship. Whereas in this world, they're trying to create a god or become gods or whatever. And I just think it's been a cycle for ancient. This person tried to do that. This group of people tried to do that. They fell apart. And then so on and so forth. It just kept happening, until the greater will or like all these gods actually started showing up. But everybody's method sort of like either worked or didn't, and like summoned a partial god or like did some weird magic. It always
subjugates some other person to or some other like species or whatever.
It's like basically supposed to examine like how humanity's hubris is trying to like latch on to an afterlife in a way, and how that like leads to like so much suffering, essentially. You know what I mean? And I think that's the lesson to be learned from the story, like personally.
Totally. And also following each path of these different people and different ideologies is very much all these different philosophies, right? Of like rugged individualism or like science and with Ronnie's like all that whole stuff.
Yeah, the stars.
That feels like individualism or like
blind faith, right? With the Golden Order.
Blind faith. There's like chaos and anarchism with the flame of frenzy.
Yep.
Like there's all these different ideologies of how man evolves or how we systemize each other and all that kind of stuff.
Hornsen is almost like Aztec type of shit, right? Like totally. Almost like sacrifice and like some people are more important than others or what, stuff like that, right? I don't know.
I think part of the function of the lore of Elden Ring is the metaphorical becoming literal. And you see that time and time again in the lore, especially with the idea of duology. And then you literally have multiple twins. The idea of the twin trees of the Elden Tree and the Shadow Tree, the twin spiral that was the symbol of the Crucible. And it's very fascinating that the Elden Tree came from the Crucible, but it still had a weird spiral scenarios. Again, it's just really masterful. And one day I would love to be like, what was George R.R. Martin and what was FromSoft? Like that would be like fascinating for me to see.
Yeah.
I mean,
totally. Go ahead, Randy.
You know where the incest.
Go for it, Randy.
Other than that,
Yeah. What do you got?
I was gonna say, speaking of duality, like besides the twin stuff, the other thing is the masculine and the feminine side of a being. So like you have Miquella, who's the male, and then you have Saint Trina, who's the female version. And then you have Marika, who's the female, and Radagon, who's the male version. Yeah. And what's funny about those connections is that in order to become a god, they had to let go of their body, right? Yeah. And so my thought is that Radagon is the body, whereas Marika is the soul. Yeah. And so that's how she was able to ascend. And just like Miquella was able to ascend because he left his physical body, which is Saint Trina. So there's so much duality in Elden Ring throughout, but I thought that was fascinating how they're almost a parallel to each other.
Yeah,
and how
it
they
feels like
to godhood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like America has kind of somehow her and Radagon have kind of separated and become like at odds with each other, because it feels like her desperation to reach out to the Tarnished to come back and have either sorry, what's Horalu's name?
It's
Godric.
Godfrey.
Godfrey, thank
Yeah.
Godfrey.
And
Godfrey,
to have
thank you,
either
Godfrey.
to have either Godfrey or another Tarnished take up the mantle and defeat Radagon, it seems like she needs a new consort or a new body to kind of like restart this whole thing, right? But
Mhm.
That's what's interesting
Yeah.
about that is that I think that comes with the situation. Like Radagon is opposition to America, just like Saint Trina is opposition to Mikola, because if you follow Saint Trina's quests and do the
it's
imbibe the
wonderful.
nectar, she tells you that she wants you to kill him.
Yeah.
because
she's
it sucks.
essentially going
Because being a
against-
god sucks.
Yeah, it's imprisonment, right? So
Yeah.
she's essentially trying to stop him from doing what he's doing, just like Radagon is trying to stop her from destroying the rune. So it's like,
Yeah.
again, just like mirrors of these dualities across the entire games.
It's wonderful.
I saw this.
Part of that, though, I think, is that Mikola's Age of Compassion wasn't gonna be like an enlightened paradise.
No.
It was gonna be forced slavery,
Yeah,
where
slavery.
no one had any sort of self-determination or self
free will.
will.
You're like,
Free
yeah,
will,
we're all nice to each other, but we're all also imprisoned in this niceness.
Just like every age of everything, like nothing's good and
Yeah.
everything sucks. But that's just
Yeah.
kind of how From Software works. Really quick, you were talking about the relationship between Marika and Radigan, and I found this really cool Reddit post that I want to show you guys. That'll blow your mind. So
Great.
check it out. This person was like talking about like the various statues that show kind of the the stages of Marika. So just going through this, like these seals represent the lifelong duty of those chosen by the gods, right? The Marika sword seals. Solemn
And the
duty
Radigan
weighs
ones.
upon the one beholden, not unlike a gnawing curse from which there is no deliverance. And
Of course.
Saint Trina didn't want Mikola to become a god because she knew that it would be a burden, right? And that's kind of what you guys are saying.
Prison. Yeah.
Right. So like what's interesting is the whole thing that kind of shows like the stages of Marika essentially like rotting away into her prison of godhood. So like you could see her over here like really happy with her son Mesmer.
Like, yeah.
Right? And then here she's still got her braid and she's like kind of happy. She's got her arms up. And the more that time goes on, you could see her arms are going up more and being held up more until she's kind of in the pose we know. Until eventually she's just literally crucified. So I thought that was really crazy. But then the difference is the only statues we see of Radigan is him standing proudly in control. Right?
T-posing.
So it's almost like the body is in control, but the spirit is imprisoned, right? Kind of like what you're saying.
Yeah.
And also,
So there's a
one
great
thing.
There's a great Robert Jordan quote from The Wheel of Time that's duty is lighter than a feather but heavier than a mountain.
Wow.
Yep. Totally.
One thing I remember seeing recently is about how those mirror the Vitruvian men.
Oh.
Yeah. Totally.
Like they almost exactly mirror like the exact the
Poses.
Vitruvian
Totally.
men, which is super cool.
That is
Love
so
all
cool.
the influences that they pull from.
Yeah.
It's so vast and varied, and that's why like what this is a fun. Oh, Arturo, you got something real fast?
I just got some things that I noted down that were also references.
Yeah.
Redmane Freya, that's named after a Norse god,
A Norse
Freya,
god,
which
yep.
were. Igon was inspired by Ahab and Moby
Oh wait,
Dick.
Yep.
let's get into that
We'll
in a
get
second.
into that in
Let's-
just a
let's-
sec,
let's
but
touch- let's
yeah,
touch back.
keep on going.
Okay.
Keep on going.
And then the other ones failed, so we can wait on that. Those are the
Okay.
only ones that I put together from looking at the names and knowing some myth or the story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Real fast.
So cool.
I don't know if you guys remember, but one of my favorite boss fights was against Metter, the
Finger.
mother of fingers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys remember, but the first phase of that boss fight, you come in and it's this beautiful, gorgeous music. It's unlike anything else I heard, other than maybe the ancestral spirit fight in the original base game. But the second phase, once that big ball comes above its head, the all of a sudden the soundtrack changes to these weird, like almost whale sounds that are like really like haunting and stuff. And I realized that those are the original recordings of the first time that ever a black hole's sound was recorded in real life.
Oh,
And they
Oh,
use
shit.
the actual files, the actual sound recordings
That's
from
sick.
that. Because she summons a black hole above her head that
Yeah.
she disappears back into when you defeat her. There you go. And
Yeah.
it's
Also
what you
up here,
hear
yeah.
playing in the back, what you're hearing in the black background while it's happening is the actual sound of the first recording of a black hole's sound ever.
Dude, that's rad as fuck.
So cool. What the fuck?
That's awesome, dude.
They didn't have to go that hard, dude.
They never do, but they always do, and it's just always incredible. It blows blows my mind every time.
You know what? Miyazaki does not agree. They always have to go that hard.
Yeah, totally. So
Cool.
I loved all our lore and story discussion. We can get back into it through this other stuff, but I did kind of want us to also like just go through and talk about a little bit more categorically, like our favorite bosses and like some maybe some favorite weapons and favorite areas of the game. So, but before we do that, since we touched on references, do you want to do the Captain Ahab thing and
Sure.
And stuff?
The internet fell in love with Igon and his absolute immaculate
Curse you,
voice
man.
actor. Oh my god! Like that dude was dripping anger. And
Yeah.
Igon is basically he is a dragon communion warrior.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
from what we know is he's actually a broken Drake warrior
Yeah.
because it doesn't seem like he went through the dragon communion naturally. He's just a dragon hunter that did it on his own. And he went after Baal. And Baal is interesting because Baal the dragon, Baal the Dread, he's both Moby Dick and Lucifer, the Morning Star.
Yeah.
Because Baal betrayed the Dragon Lord. And then his children are the Drakes, which are fallen dragons.
Yeah.
And in his initial battle, Igon was left basically paralyzed from the I think he doesn't even have legs anymore.
He doesn't have
for
legs, yeah.
purpose, which is very similar to Ahab losing, I believe it's his hand to Moby
Yeah.
Dick. I Am Ishmael. I haven't read that book in ages. But that was a cool little, like you don't see a lot of like sub references in Souls games. So it's really, really cool when they pop up. But yeah, that Igon absolutely killed it with his voice acting, and that was
So-
very cool. And also, it go ahead.
No, I think you might be getting there, but I'll just get you there. So, Jacob, if you want to go into the doc, I have 2 links for you, and we can watch the first one first. Igon's voice performance is very much echoing the actor something Beck. What's his
You
Glenn
didn't.
Beck?
You
No,
you guys couldn't hear it on your end, but the stream sure as hell did.
Can we
Was
play
it super loud?
it? Is there any way to play it with sound? Because the
Yeah, I can swap my stream. No problem. Hold on.
because mainly the Moby Dick clip that I have in there, I want you to hear the similarities between their
Sure.
performances because it's very much.
Right.
Gregory Peck is, I think, the actor.
Make sure to be listening to the stream.
Curse you, Baal! I hereby vow you will rue this day.
All right, let's hear the Moby Dick.
So yeah,
clip.
and then I gave you a time code. 133 is what you want to go to.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't read that part. Sorry.
Right.
Thunder and hell, what's wrong with you?
Oh yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah, the tone, the just drips vicious venom.
And
Yeah.
then can you go to 327? That's where he says whale, exactly like Bale.
Sure.
327, and that, yeah, same thing.
All right, let's.
I thought it was 327. My bad. Is it a little further? That's all right.
Breath at thee, thou damned whale!
There you
There
go.
you
That's
go.
close enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to get
That's so
claimed
cool.
too hard, but
that's an old ass movie. I think it's probably. Anyways, but
let's
yes,
hope. Let's hope.
but anyways, that's just so cool. I just love
Yeah,
that
it's
it's
incredible.
Like, you know, he took inspiration from that, so that's fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, let's get into favorite bosses. Let's just go down the panel, and you can say what your favorite boss was and why, type of thing. Let's start with you, Jacob.
What's the list of fucking bosses, dude?
Oh yeah, I do have them in the doc if you guys want to look, or if you just know. Cool.
let's see. Midra, Gaius, Meter, Romana, Divine. I mean, Mesmer was cool. You know, it was like pretty hardcore boss fight.
Yep.
It wasn't like overly hard. It took like quite a few tries. But I just thought it was like manageable and fun. And like Mesmer was cool. There was way more to do after Mesmer, obviously. But I just thought it was sick, like just all the snake shit happening, all the crazy fire. Hated Radon, got really mad at Radon at the end. But yeah, I mean, you know, I have to shout out to like, you know, the poster boy. Mesmer is a pretty cool fight.
Yeah, totally.
Who else?
Randy, what's up?
Man, that's a toss up for me between Rolana and Bale. They're both.
Yeah,
so
I love both of those fights.
Yeah, both good fights.
And I was gonna say Mesmer too, because like there's just so many good ones.
Mhm.
But I gotta put a dishonorable mention to Commander Gaius because I hate him.
Had to help Gage with
His
that one.
hitbox is trash. His hitbox is trash. But also, yeah, Radon, like that dude's just so cheap.
Fuck you, Rizdan. You're a piece of shit.
He's so cheap.
He's
So
so
yeah.
cheap.
Anyways, yeah, it's tough because Rolana is just a fun fight,
Mhm.
and Bale is just like an epic, like just the epic scenario to you know, like when he flies in the air with those like lightning wings, dude, just like everything, like the whole vibe is just so sick. And then of course Egon just tops it off. Like you got this really cool NPC with these amazing voice lines. I think I would have to give it to Bale ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good pick.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bale was
Yeah.
sick.
Arturo?
So I mean, Mesmer the Impaler was really cool, especially that second phase with the snake. But honestly, I'm gonna go with Needle Knight Lita and company
Okay,
Yeah.
because that was just a fun fight, and there was so much story. Because these were your homies, dog.
Yeah.
These are the people you were ride or die with for most of this game, and then but as soon as Mikola breaks his rune, you start being like, oh man, what's gonna happen? Are they at each other's throats? And then you're having to choose sides. So I really like that one. Commander
Yeah, it's-
Gaius, honestly, I'm a weird where I don't think I'm good at these games, but it took him. I killed him in either my second or third try.
Nice.
Nice.
I also was not mounted when I fought him.
No, I didn't fight him.
Yeah, no.
So ones that I say fuck you to were the Skadoosh Avatar and Radon. Those guys were like the hardest ones.
So I got that
for me, anyways.
I got that avatar in like 2 tries, but that's just because I had a great shield, man. And the same thing with that Needle Knight fight, dude. I just kept using the shield crash where you like drop the shield and push, and like I just would stun lock like any like tarnished enemy. I stun locked the entire DLC, and it made it super easy for me. But yeah, I was like, this is probably supposed to be harder.
Go for it.
I would just say honorable mention to the Mother of Fingers because that whole scenario was really cool.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was one of the most coolest arenas, and like the whole way you get there and that whole thing was just awesome. Yeah, shout out to the Needle Knight Leda fight because it's like Avengers Civil War, right? Where it's like it's like, oh man, like now we all have to fight each
You
other.
can summon Ansbach and the Tolier.
Tolier, yeah. And like I like even how Ansbach after the fight is like, hey, Tolier actually did all right in that fight. it's pretty good.
Yeah, so cool.
That was epic, and just the fact that like at first it's just her, but then everyone else comes in. I was like, oh shit, it's that guy, and then like I didn't realize that you could Dryleaf Dane. You could go fight Dryleaf Dane as part of his quest earlier. Like when you find him in those one ruins, I didn't realize that he told me earlier that just come up and hit me and we'll start fighting because he wanted to like train you or whatever.
Well, there's also there's an emote.
You gotta do that.
You gotta do the emote.
Emote. That's a challenge.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I just missed it, whatever. But so all of a sudden he comes into that fight. I'm like, there you are. I've been wondering when you were gonna come up, and then he like actually is pretty tough because he's
So does that mean you missed out on Dryleaf arts because you didn't get that fight early?
Yep.
No, you can find his stuff in a waterfall down by.
It's in Rao Ruins.
Yeah, it's in the Rao Ruins somewhere. I found it later.
You get the first one from his first fight.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
There's like
two
another
different
weapon you
variations
missed.
of it. It's the same. It's a still both fists, but one's
Got it.
just a different variation of the same
Yep.
thing.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay,
Does
interesting.
one of them give you a couple more kicks too?
One
one of the-
is more kick focused. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
that was-
Hitmonchan. It's like Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee in
That's
Yeah, it's
right.
like Charlie
No,
footwork or something like that.
Yeah.
I did Taekwondo when I was a kid, so I went for the footwork.
I like the footwork. I like the footwork also.
Nice.
And then shout out. I think it was maybe a tad too easy, but shout out to Romana Saint of the Bud. I really liked just
yeah.
her design. I loved the butterfly spell that she does. I thought that was really cool.
Let's not forget Midra, Lord of the Frenzied Flame. That was a pretty sick
was
fight
pretty-
too.
Yeah.
Just like
Dude,
actually
the
fighting
whole
the
area-
Frenzied Flame was metal as motherfucker, dude.
Yeah.
That whole area was dope AF.
Agreed. Yeah, that's my
I
favorite
feel like
area.
it was sick, but it was also like underwhelming. I was
I
hoping for
understand
something
that.
like bigger.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah,
the
it didn't
Winter
take
Lancer
me-
were sick, don't get me wrong, they were cool, but I feel like it made it sound like there was gonna be like this huge like creepy thing in there, and it's just like these small little, Winter Lanterns.
Yeah, I killed.
I did like.
I killed them all.
did like that. I
Fucking
did
killed
like
every
that they
single
were
one.
this. I did like that they were just like, you just can't do it. You just can't look at them. You know what I mean? Like just that.
You can
it's
kill 'em.
Back to that.
I killed
I
every
do.
single one.
You have to parry them right, and
Yeah.
then you can attack them.
Just pull out a
Well, dude,
buckler. It's easy.
The area starts with Torrent going out. Fuck this. You're on your
Yeah,
own. buddy."
that was sick.
And like
Yeah.
someone mentioned it, like Torrent will fight the Elden Beast with you.
Yeah,
But he gets the frenzied flame. He's like, nah, bro, we're not.
He's like, I'm good.
Did you
Yeah.
guys
That
see
place
all
is
the
spooky.
all the dead body? Did you guys see all the dead bodies in front of his mansion?
Yeah.
Yeah, lined up.
Those were his followers executed by the Hornset Inquisitors.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I loved the way you get to that whole area and everything. So that's where we're gonna go next. Favorite areas so we can just
That's
can
the
go
one
off
right
from that.
there. Abyssal
I
Woods.
do.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
I
for me it was the Cerulean Coast because it was beautiful.
God, it was beautiful.
The Abyssal Woods because that shit was creepy and scary.
It's like
and
Hansel
then
and Gretel.
the area where you get to the shaman village, I was like, there's
Yeah.
more to this game. What the F? And there's like two or three little mini areas just in that one
Mm.
secret area. And yeah, and the shaman village was just also very gorgeous. Like this might have been one of the most beautiful FromSoft games when it comes to
Yeah.
the Cerulean Coast and the shaman village.
Yeah, the red place too, where the Cerulean Coast was also pretty awesome. The
Yeah, I forget what it's called. It's
Oh,
called
yeah.
like the
grave place.
Carrion Grave Lords or Grave something.
Yeah, that grave
Tyrants.
place. Like, because it was like so pretty, that area, and then you get to that place, you're like, okay, wait, now it's creepy because everything's red. Yeah, pretty sweet.
I'm trying to think, man.
Dude, and also like the finger areas, like sort of underwhelming in a way, right? Kind of like what you're
Yeah.
saying, like really big, but nothing much is happening. But like the atmosphere is incredible, and there's all like finger bullshit going on everywhere.
I loved the stone coffin fissure. How you get there, where you go so far down into that
Yeah,
pit,
that was
and then
Oh yeah, that
And
was
then just-
incredible.
the like really intense purple and the whole thing with Saint Trina I think is really interesting. I love that even though I didn't necessarily love the boss fight, the putrescent knight, I love that it's like kind of an amalgam of like a bastardized amalgam of Radon, because it's like it's Saint Trina like trying to summon its own consort, but like from within the memory of Mikola, but it's like it's kind of bastardized because it doesn't really know, you know. I just like that whole thing. And just getting there through the coffin is cool.
That axe carried me through a lot of the game too, by the way. That
nice.
axe ruled. It was fucking cool. Only needed arcane and like strength, I think.
But then also the ancient ruins of Roa for me, like it's one of those moments where like I came out and it was like sunset at the time when I got there, and I was like, wait, is this Zelda Breath of the Wild all of a sudden? Like what is happening? Like
It was
and
green.
I had never seen a beautiful luscious place with like animals prancing around. I was like, what? This isn't a FromSoft game. What's happening here? You know?
Yeah.
It's
What
amazing.
about you, Randy?
I can't choose one. I don't think.
I mean, yeah, you can just talk
Honestly,
about what you like.
the whole DLC, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you first get there, the gravesite playing incredible. Like seeing the Erdtree, the Shadow Tree with the veils, which are the veils are not just like visual. They're also like that's how it's hiding from the rest of the lands between. And
The Baldkin.
yeah, what is it called? Enter Elim.
Yeah.
Final dungeon, dude.
Oh, so cool.
The,
Final
the
tower.
design is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And great dungeon.
So something I noticed in Enir Elim and in the Shadow Keep that there were these annoying enemies there that weren't bosses, but they were just super hard to beat. But they were telegraphing that area's end boss. In the Shadow Keep, they're telegraphing a lot of Mesmer's attacks, and in Enir Elim, they were telegraphing a lot of Radahn's attacks.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I thought that was very, very smart way to be like, because those are difficult, especially Radahn. But when I realized, like, oh, FromSoft was trying to teach me how to do this whole time, I thought that was very, very clever game design.
100%.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't. There's not really a favorite. They're just like the whole thing, dude. Just
the DLC.
Yeah,
is
the
my
DLC,
favorite.
yeah.
Cerulean Coast was amazing too. Like when I first went there, I was like, dude, this is so cool. Then you fight those shape guys, and they're kind of douches. But
enemy wise, go ahead.
I was gonna say, talking about enemies, I'm sick of dragons already. Am I the only one?
Yeah, a lot of.
I'm sick of
dragons.
I'm sick of Drakes for sure. You know what
Drakes.
I mean?
Well, it's Senesax, dude. Who cares? I don't want to fight you. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I'm only gonna fight you for that ancient dragon smithing stone, but otherwise, like, I'm tired of Drakes already and dragons.
I'm very excited to New Game Plus with my Elden Ring DLC run because I have so many fucking smithing stones, and so I'm just gonna experiment with like every weapon in the game from now on, and just get them all hype. You know?
I just want to throw out a shout out to if you remember the Everjail like weird like worm fuckers. In that underground area, where you go to Saint Trina, all of a sudden those motherfuckers are shooting you with lasers, and I was like,
sniping you.
Amazing. It's the only time they ever switched that up just to fuck with you once, and I just shout outs to those guys for fucking with you.
I like how there's like spirit versions of those guys in the world too.
Yeah, the weird like eel dudes. Yeah, those guys are sick.
Guys with like a spirit version.
Yeah, those guys were cool as hell.
That was like from some Hayao Miyazaki.
I was about to say the other Miyazaki. Yeah.
Totally true. Yeah.
Which, by the way, can we just say like, can we imagine if there was a Miyazaki collaboration and the two Miyazakis came together?
I don't think the universe could handle it.
Yeah, we can't handle that. We don't deserve that.
Basically, you're saying grim dark Ni no Kuni.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But like,
sweet.
It's just an imagination in my mind. Well, I mean, there was some great weapons, some new stuff like that. But ultimately, is there anything else you guys want to say about this before we get out of here?
Let's all just say like just mention a new what is it, talisman, weapon, or like spell or skill that you were using. Like, you know what I mean? Let's just knock those out and then we can get out of here. Like I said, I used the Putrescent Knight's axe. Again, it only needed like strength, a little dexterity, and some arcane. And in the DLC, I had leveled up some arcane, which was great. So I was able to use it, and it was great. It's the only weapon that inflicts frost that doesn't have intelligent scaling. So for my strength build, it was badass. Someone else take it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I need a second, so someone else jump up.
Yeah, I would have to say the backhand blades, and then of course the Fire Knight's greatsword. Those two weapons were probably two of the best. And the ancient meteor or greatsword.
Dude, yeah, I use that too because it was also great for strength.
The beast claws, dude. Seriously, like there's so many good weapons.
So many. Yeah, the great katana was another staple for me. That I essentially put a mesmer flame skill on there and left it on there. So every time I wanted to do like fire, I was all about it.
Milady was also just like a sick weapon, and it's always really effective. And like it was so like you can meld it to any kind of build, you know. Freaking sick.
The stances of all that stuff is really cool too. Hey, thanks for rating Neo Ayoshi. Really appreciate that, by the way.
Hell yeah.
My weapons that I was using, I used two from the DLC. One was the one that I ended up finalizing with was the Starline sword.
Yeah,
it's like
sick.
it's a katana, which is dope. But it's like this. It's got like a cross guard. It looks like Kylo Ren's lightsaber. But it's blue and green. It glows blue and green. It scales with intelligence, which is cool for me. And its weapon art is amazing. It's just like you do all these flippy like blue like crazy intelligence magic damage swipes, and it's awesome. So that was cool. And then I was, for most of the DLC, I was wearing the dancer's garb, like all that red dress stuff. And so I started using the dancing blade of Rana, which is cool. Those backhand blades are so fun, like
So
the
cool.
moveset. And again, the weapon art on that one, you just constantly like twirl and dance, and like it cuts through scrubs. Like it's not very good for bosses, but for like just a bunch of enemies, it just tears through them. It's great.
Yep.
Arturo, your turn.
Yeah, so I actually started a new character to go through Shadow, and I usually do Spellcaster into Spellblade. So this time I decided to do a melee build, so I did Dex melee specifically for claws. And
Yeah.
I ended up using the Beast's Claws for a good bit. But then once I got the Renala's Twin Moon Blade, game over, man. That became my thing. Like I know the those things were like super powerful. If you go back to regular Elden Ring, they just wipe people left and right, and that became my main weapon, honestly. But shout out to the dry leaf arts, because doing kung fu was super cool. I never tried the thrown weapons or the poison weapons.
Yeah, the Smith scripts.
Which I kind of want to try it in a New Game Plus or whatever. And then I think I ended up finishing the game wearing the thorn armor. That basically every time you dodge, it bleeds the enemy a little bit.
Nice.
But yeah,
there's a Smith script great axe or great hammer.
Yeah, hammer.
Which is insane. You like throw it,
spin.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I have a character that's intelligence and faith, so I'm excited to do a Smith script build when I get that character there for sure.
Or isn't there a shield you can throw like Wonder Woman, Captain America style?
Yeah,
that was pretty dope.
There's a number of Smith script things, but there's also the one like punching weapon that throws out like 3 daggers, like Wolverine style, essentially.
Oh, that's the Knight's Claw.
Yeah, that one looks cool too. So many great weapons.
Also, for your faith intelligence build, Rolana's set is literally that.
Oh yeah.
The Knight of Flame or the Sword of Night and Flame.
Yeah,
and then use that as another one too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the weapon. That's the build that I was going with. Like she has that sword right now, where I left off in the base game. And then talismans. I use the one like talisman. Yeah, I use the one all the time where if you kill someone, it increases your attack, and so like I'd be rocking that shit all the time. Yeah. What other talismans do you guys like?
Let's see. Well, I mean, in this DLC, you get all the like +3 versions of like all the Drake talismans, which are really nice. Yeah, especially for Glass Cannon me, like just to be able to. Okay, is this person lightning me or firing me or magicking me or just physical damage me? Because there was like a one for all of those, and it was very helpful.
Marcus Braid being the +3 holy.
Oh, the holy, yeah, totally. So just having, I pretty much was switching those out in my 4th slot all the time.
Yep, same. Any other talismans?
Trying to think here.
I think once I find the ones that I like, I just don't even think about them anymore. And it's one of those things like I'll find a new one like that looks neat, but not for my build.
Cool.
Yeah, the sword talisman is super useful. Or like if you're going like a big heavy sword or something, that increases so much damage so much. So it's definitely worth using that one.
The two-hand one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gangster.
And then the one you get from Letta, where the lacerating tree talisman, I think. Where it increases damage for like dashing attacks. It's like running attacks or anything like that, or the backhand blades when you're using the swift slash. Dude, so useful.
So not everyone obviously is using spells, but Rolana's Twin Moons were a really fun spell.
Yeah.
You do essentially her big moon thing, which is fun. It clears out if there's a bunch of people around you, which is fun. And then there's a gravitational spell that was really cool.
Nice. I want to try that glint blade one that the finger dudes use that like kind of like go and like chase people on my end character.
Finger dudes.
That one, that spell seems pretty cool.
them the finger, you know.
Although I do in our Elden 3 playthrough, when we get there, I'm going to be using Marika's Elden Tree, whatever.
Hell yeah,
The
totally
fucking
to heal us
Erdtree
all.
spell.
Yeah.
Even though
Fleeting
it's not here, it's
microcosm
worthless.
Fleeting Microcosm is the other one that I was using, which is essentially Mater's, the mother of fingers, like her big black hole above it.
Ooh.
You can cast it when you have the two. If you put the two casting speed talismans on,
Mhm.
you can like essentially just spam the shit out of it, and it
Nice.
just constantly shoots these black holes that just area of effects everyone around you. It's pretty great.
That's tight.
So
Yeah,
that's fun.
there's clearly like a lot more spells I need to experiment with on other builds, but like
There's so many incantations that I can't wait to play with because I couldn't do any of them, obviously.
what weapon
Let's not forget to
skills.
talk about the Ashes of War too.
Yeah, like I
Frickin'
put the
Carrion
one.
Sovereignty.
Which one's that?
So sick. Carrion Sovereignty. It's essentially the one that Rolana uses, where she does the big sword straight down and then she does the swipe. You
Nice.
get that one in Ash of War, but right by the church or by cathedral.
Right.
Nice.
That's badass. Yeah, I had the Mesmer one on my Great Katana that like it shoots out like a thing and then your blade gets covered in the Mesmer
And the
flame, which is
Yeah.
like really cool. I was using that one for a while.
Nice.
Yep. And then, of course the special weapons like the Ancient Ore one, which is like fucking crazy where you do like the rush forward and then you slash, or like the other one, the Great Sword, where like that one guy in the Everjail equivalent tomb thing where he like just slashes like a vacuum blade slash at
the
people.
Inquisitor blade.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to as far as spirit ashes too. The smelter dudes, like the golems sort of guys who are in the. So his spirit ash, I leveled it up to not the all the way, but the level right under
9.
finally. Yeah, to level 9, and he's great because he really takes very minimal damage unless the boss that you're fighting gets behind him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So like he's great just for taking aggro because he's just like kind of a big lumbering dude, and he just throws like big fire pots at him essentially, and like it's mostly just an aggro taker, but he takes such little damage that like he like for Bale I actually used him instead of my mimic tier because like Bale would just concentrate on him and I could go back and just moonshot Bale and frostbite him a bunch, and that's what worked for me. But
Yeah, I didn't use any of those ashes in my playthrough.
it's the only one I used, but it was cool.
Did anyone upgrade Jolan Spirit Ash to the Jolan Anna Spirit Ash?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't use it.
No, I didn't.
I've heard it's really good. I heard it's because they're really aggro. Like they're always on the boss.
It's just one of those things. Like, how did someone figure out to do this? Because in order to find Anna, you have to like reach the tower by going through a completely different area.
You have to drop down onto the tower from the area above it.
The shaman village.
I just found everything just by exploring every little bit. I just found everything by accident, which was fun. Yeah, I swear. I swear. Because I found Anna before I even knew who Jolene was. So it was like later on that I read a thing and I was like, oh, I'll go back there. And then that's how I was able to. But I didn't even use the ash because on my character I don't have like barely any mind. So I can't even summon like anyone really on that character.
Oh yeah, I feel you. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's why I was using Mimic Tier, because it just uses health, and I'm like just strength, vigor, and endurance like the whole game.
Pretty much use the Mimic Tier for the majority of the game.
I mean, that's right. But it is fun to experiment. Like in my one of my other playthroughs that the character I just started not too long ago. I've been using the ancient like the people with the horns, but the archer one. And it's pretty great because I'm just like a close combat person, so they're constantly just in the background firing those brutal arrows that just totally wreck.
Dude.
They wreck people and they wreck you when you first encounter them. And and so it's great. I run in, they just do damage from far away and they never die because they're like the boss is usually just attacking me, which is cool. So
I mean that's one of the best parts of a New Game Plus run is that those arrows don't fuck you up as much.
Yeah, totally.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's a lot of great armor sets. There's
Rakshasa. Shout out to the Rakshasa set.
Death Knight set.
6% damage
really
increase.
Sick.
Let's go.
Freya's set giving you what is it? Not the carrion, the whoever Rykard's or
Oh,
no,
the,
Radon's. What's Radon's faction called again?
The red mane.
The Red Mane, yeah.
Yeah.
Red Mane.
Yeah, Freya's set increases Red Mane damage basically of any Red Mane ability, which is cool.
I love her origin that she was just a gladiator that was a badass. And
Yeah.
Radon's like, I like you. You're on my team
Yeah.
now.
It's so cool that we see all of the different like people who follow all of these factions that come from the base game, or like then there's the horn scent and that kind of thing too. The horn scent armor is super weird.
Horn scent.
I like that armor too.
What was everyone's favorite NPC from like the Michaela's companion crew?
Huh.
Gotta be Ansbach.
Ansbach. He's the best.
He's the homie.
I am inclined to say that ultimately too, but I do like that I forget what his name is, but the big heavy armor guy who's friends. Yeah, who's friends with the bugs, and
he just likes to find stuff.
Yeah.
So I made the mistake of killing one of the pests of
Me
rot.
too.
No.
And
Right
then
away.
I had to cool more. And then when I realized that out of this entire game, the pests of rot are like the nicest people. And all they want to do is help
Not the
you
red
out.
ones.
I felt so bad.
Same.
Oh no, fuck those guys. That
Screw
are
the
but
red ones, man.
No, not that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
But
the same thing.
scavenger guys, they're
Yeah,
just so
the
nice.
foragers, yeah.
I had
Yeah,
more
they're
set
pretty
like
good.
right at the beginning, which is sad because I missed out on all those recipes. But shout outs to those big ass pots, by the way, too. Fucking love the big pots.
The hefty pots.
Amazing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the enemies that the tongue thing comes out.
No.
Have you guys ignited that one furnace golem who's resting against those ruins, and that's cool.
I've killed
that was a cool moment.
I've killed everything, bro.
Screw those furnace golems, by the
Yeah.
way.
Me too,
fuck
but
them.
that was a cool moment though when you
pretty
like
easy.
yeah.
They're
'cause
pretty
that
easy
leads
for
to
me
a
for some
skidoo
reason.
tree.
Easy but annoying.
Yeah, they're
it
time
leads-
consuming.
But that one you're talking about, which is behind the Shadow Keep, or if I
Yeah.
remember correctly,
Yeah, it's on the
there's,
lower level.
that's how you access, I think, a skidoo seed and also a special item.
It's one of the swords,
The sword of night, or dark or night.
dark.
Or night.
Yeah.
And
you
I
can
think you
just-
also got like the large arc spell there.
There's
Yeah.
multiple ones that you have to throw shit into as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But that was cool because you had to wake it up, and like that
Yeah.
was kind of a cool little mechanic.
Did
That
y'all
whole
try
part
the
was cool.
deflecting hard tier at all?
What's that?
The deflecting hard tier, did y'all try that at all?
I still have not tried that. No, but
Essentially, it turns it into Sekiro, dude.
yeah, I've heard that.
Like,
yeah,
so cool.
yeah, it's dope. I want to try that paired with the pairing or the new shield, the attack shield thing. That seems like a great.
That thing
pairing.
does look really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never tried it, but it's a cool stance, and it's a
cheap.
real weapon from history, which is also cool.
Yeah. Cheap as fuck.
Cheap as fuck. Yeah.
Just so you guys know.
I just hope it'll get my blocking game a little bit better because I'm kind of a shitty blocker. So.
Dude, all you need is endurance, man. I'm telling you, bro. Just endurance,
Yeah.
great shield talisman. You're done. It's easy.
Yeah.
That's how I beat Radon, dude. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go block, but then like stab with my spear. And like, that's how I beat Radon. I just kept blocking, stab. And stamina goes down, wait a sec, dodge a little bit, come back, stab, just block through everything. And then I defeated him. I was like, holy shit, this is easy.
Love that.
Yeah.
I love how like one of his attacks that like some of those attacks are like, how do I block this? But one of them, it's like if you jump at the right time, he just misses you completely.
Yeah. I never mastered the jump dodging, but apparently it's very powerful.
Jumping is like vastly underrated. Like it is like the superior dodge most of the time. I'm just it's hard to say because like your entire lower body from like just below your chest becomes invincible as soon as you jump. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. The hitbox when you see it actually like it's not just like anything under your feet, it's anything under your chest, which is like pretty wild.
All the legs just don't get hit.
Yeah,
So,
it
that's
changes the whole game for me. I'm gonna have to
But obviously
do that.
But obviously if there's anything above, it'll not only like hurt you but also smack you down.
It's like
usually.
that's why I thought Radon was so hard, just because I didn't realize I should be jumping.
Yeah. Anywho, well, guys, this was a really, really excellent spoiler cast. So fun to talk all things. We've all been like holding it in, I'm sure, and just wanting to spout out all these theories and stuff. There's of course endless more that we could get into, but maybe at a later date we'll revisit just as a reminiscence down the line, or when there's speculation about FromSoft's next thing and all that stuff. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Anything else you guys want to spout out about this, or if not, certainly let the audience know where they can find you. Let's start with Arturo. And again, thanks for being on our content for the first time.
No, thanks for inviting me. This was dope. I got really excited when Jacob asked me to be here because I've been wanting. I think I'm the only one in my friends group that's beaten Shadow of the Erdtree outside of the NeON Pocket crew. So this was great. And you can find me on Twitter as a ArturoTronRoboBartender. I mostly just post dad jokes to piss off Jacob.
Fantastic.
Fair.
And Randy / OMGAArchetype. Yeah, tell them where people can find you, and promote your band and stuff too.
Yeah. So yeah, you can find me pretty much any social media at OMGAArchetype. And yeah, my band is actually on hiatus. So I'll just shout out my own like solo stuff, which is Fall Blind.
Absolutely.
So you can find that on like any streaming service. I have a couple songs available. And I'm currently working on some new stuff. So, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, just hanging out doing. Right now I decided after I played Shadow of the Erdtree, I beat it, went through it like 3 times, helped my friends with it. I was like, it's time to go back to Bloodborne. So that's what I've been doing now. I'm actually playing Bloodborne, and despite the 30 frames per second, that game is still. As soon as I started playing it, I was like, I'm back. I'm completely back. Like I'm sucked in, and I'm not. This is what I'm doing until I beat it. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Can you just say what your solo project is again?
Fault Blind.
Fault Blind.
Yep.
Nice.
Like this.
Yep.
Cool. I just want to make sure I put it up on the screen.
Yeah. So I have a couple songs, and if you want to you can go to OmegaArchetype on YouTube. I have a few things there too. So
cool, man. Hell yeah.
I think I have a live playthrough of one of my songs on there as well, actually, or like a guitar playthrough. So
fuck yeah.
Nice. Well, Jacob, everyone knows you, so we'll have plenty more of you in the future.
Yeah, you just make sure to check out us live on Twitch, twitch.tv/NeonPocketDimension every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. We record our other podcast, and then you're probably already watching this on our YouTube channel, so you should subscribe or something. Maybe check out some other stuff. There's all sorts of videos. A couple weeks from now, we're gonna do opening night live shit.
Gamescom is coming up, so we will do some.
Right.
We're gonna do some prediction episodes, potentially some live reacts depending on who's available. I think it is middle of the day, which is always annoying. I wish they'd just do it at night.
Yeah, we're gonna do a video like later on at night.
We'll do a everything
like
announced kind of vibe and recap. Which is always fun. We love doing that kind of stuff. Stay tuned for more NPD and NGD content always coming your way. Give us a like and subscribe. And don't forget, you can write in neongamingdimension@gmail.com if you have a topic you want us to discuss, any questions. You can comment about your Elden Ring builds or your favorite bosses. We'd love to bring it up on other content. So give us a shout out, and we will definitely we'll include your write-in whenever you get back to us. So guys, this has been super fun. I'm Gage, that's Jacob, that's Randy, that's Arturo. It's been a great time, and curse you, Bell!